Good afternoon and welcome to today's Midnight Order training session, taking a brief look at our orders functionality and taking a more closer look at how to handle versioning within orders. Today we'll be covering how to search, edit, and copy data from within an order into other versions, and also how to associate invoicing and scheduling conveniences within those versions. Before we jump in, let's take a look at some of the drop-down boxes that will be populated during our process and looking into the orders and the versions within the orders. We'll start by jumping into our admin module under the estimate/order list. In here, some of the key areas we'll be looking at include the order version status. This status here is referenced on our dynamic job board. So for scheduling purposes, you can assign an order to have its own version status based on the version's information. There's also some of the other core areas, such as the undelete orders, which allows you to look at an order in its entirety and revert it back to an open status. Well, this doesn't necessarily impact the versions within an order. It does allow you to undelete an order which was mistakenly deleted in an attempt to delete one or more specific versions. We'll also see, as we scroll down further, under our user-defined fields list, two different order level UDFs. We have the order level UDFs, which are available within the details tab of an order, and the order version UDFs, which are available in the general info tab of the order. The UDFs here can be populated by clicking the edit button on the far right, given a label name, a field type such as text, date, or currency, a pre-supplied text option, such as in my case here for UDF2, a yes or no to simulate other choices, as well as a blank choice for this first option, and a character limit or field size. Additionally, we have functionality so that if you were to copy an order, the data would proceed into the new order with it. And if you were to export an order, whereas this cannot be controlled here, under the order itself, that can carry backwards into an estimate. In the orders list itself, while you can have multiple orders visible under your general view that are by default only ever displaying your open orders one at a time, this only ever displays the first version in multi-version jobs. Under the extended search, if you check your box for show versions and then click submit, you'll be able to then see any and all open versions within a particular order. You'll see in my example here, as I move my mouse over each one, I have the version name indicated by the project name, and also on the bottom of my screen, the URL indicates each version that I'm about to enter, with version 0 being the original version of the job. If I enter an order that contains versions, I'll see under the versions tab list that we have multiple versions populated. Under default or brand new created order, this versions page will only ever show the version 0 or first version as identified in the URL, and subsequently the calculated quantity and tax plus cost for that version itself, which should always match the total plus tax that you see here in the order header. The version quantity is referenced from the general info tab's expected quantity, which in this case is the version expected quantity, as everything under the info tab or under the general tab as a whole is version based. This means that the version status, which we populated in the admin list earlier, as well as our service information, such as any print services, finishing, etc., any drops that are associated with this particular version, as well as any elements of postage, such as meters or stamps, and inventory are all part of this specific version. Everything mentioned in the upper portion of the order is what we call the order level or order header level information. And this info will be present on any version that you see because it really doesn't tie to any specific version. For instance, the sales rep cannot be changed between versions of an order. And the core due date of a job cannot be changed between versions of an order. You can change the drop date or due date per version, but the one listed here is the one for the job itself. We'll copy this job and run through a few examples to see just how our versioning handles information carried into documentation in our production list. So from here, we have a calculated total plus tax made up of the total cost for all of our services. And for all our taxable services, any tax is given based on this taxable box here. I assign a due date, such as the 13th of this month, and save. You see that as we proceed through, our due date under our drops tab has been given an updated date value, as well as having the quantity defaulted to the info tab's expected quantity. I'll also fill out some general information here. We can peek through and see other information if we need. We'll also notice that under our details tab, the expected quantity here is referencing a total of 5,000. We'll keep a close eye on this as we move along. So under our versions tab here, if I were to create a separate version, typically there's 3 reasons you would do so. You may either create a version to illustrate different shipping locations, different production amounts or production dates, or simply different billing information that needs to be tied to the customer. You can run this in a consolidation for all 3, which gives you the convenience to both produce and schedule out your tasks, as well as bill the customer in a timely manner based on what it is that they order and when it needs to be delivered. There's 2 ways to create new versions. You can either click the copy button on one of your versions to create a copy of it, giving you options to change the due date and quantity. And the other method of version creation simply creates a brand new version with no forward carry of information. That process works by adding a new line here at the bottom of the versions list. As well as populating a date of your own, and clicking Save to commit this record and actually create that new version. Upon taking a look at our different versions now, notice that we're right now in version 2. This is given a suffix ID of 1, which is the second in our instance of a 0 starting count. The quantity of 2,500 is our info tab's expected quantity. And we'll see that in creating this version, our services that have an expected quantity defaulting to whatever the value is in the expected quantity have been updated with the new count. Incidentally, our inventory consumption required has updated itself based on any of the service changes that have been made due to the quantity that we provided. This way, for inventory deduction purposes, our needed inventory counts versus our on-hand will be able to adjust themselves automatically, and when deduction processes occur, will occur to pass the correct information forward. Also note in our details tab, as far as quantities go, the total expected quantity here is the sum of all quantities listed under the versions tab. Under our drops tab, we'll also see that our quantity and due date are the ones that we provided when we created the new version. This due date in this case does not match what we have in the order header due date because, again, this is a separate drop on a multi-version job, whereas this is an overarching due date. The information under the info tab, such as our additional comments that we added here in our user-defined field, our version status, and other version information has copied forward. And under the details tab, as well as our shipping and attachments tabs, any hand-entered information from these will not be updated as you copy them forward because they are order specific. And much like the order header that we see up here, anything that we list in these tabs will appear to carry through, but will actually be simply looking at static information. To jump back and forth between other versions, there are two ways to do this within a job. You can either click into the versions tab itself and click the load button to bring yourself into that specific version. Alternatively, you can click the blue versions button here at the top of the order and click the version that you'd like to enter. If we take a look at some of our reports, we know that we have the same version listed twice with two quantities. Many of our invoices reference these versions separately. For instance, indicating the count of each job or each process of the work that needs to be done in its own individual counts. In this case, if we were to look at the print tab, we would see that we have 4 services here. In the case of our business cards and our postcards here, you know that they're components of the job, which the count's equal to the primary quantity. And while we have this one invoice, we have others that behave in different ways to show different pieces of information. We also have our group billing invoices, which can be customized in such a way that you can pick and choose how your version-based line items consolidate with each other. You can do this by creating groups. giving each group a name and a quantity to reference, as well as a unit of measure for billing convenience. From here, you can identify a number to put for each group. We'll see that the version suffix has changed between these two, letting us know which version data we're consolidating together. And once we hit refresh, our updated list here shows us, based on our groups, how our pricing is split. Let me just change this to 3, just so we have all 3 available. Now that we've saved this, if we look at our invoice group billing or invoice price group billing, we'll see that we have a consolidation listed, summing up the unit prices, and then calculating them together to give us a total extended price in a method that meets the needs of whatever our customer may require. Finally, we have our invoice price version summary report. This report will list everything right on top of each other. And for instances in which a unit price is the same regardless of version, such as this drilling service, the quantities will be added together and the extended price will be updated to show the total quantity times unit price. This is a neat way to show consolidated information across multiple versions without having to go into the group billing module and consolidate them yourself, as it plugs together services that match the same unit price, service code, and service price description. As far as work order reports go, we have several different work order reports to choose from. Most of them will show just work order information based on the job that you're looking at as a whole and the version that you have open on the screen. For instance, in this case, our standard work order report lists the version that we're looking at, being version 2. Other reports, such as our work order versions report, will list all of our information starting from the order's first version and then carrying through into any subsequent versions. When we apply a close date, it does close all versions within an order. And when you prepare to export this information out into your accounting software, such as QuickBooks or Peachtree, all of your information is tied from the service level into a single job, meaning that your bills are not exported out in version level, but rather order level information, having one line for each postage element or service element within your job's many versions. Finally, if we take a look at our dynamic job board for scheduling, we can see that for our order 1679, the work that needs to be done within it will be split under our task view by version. As well as under our order view by version. Making changes to your tasks or the order level in the DJB for all of your services will subsequently update everything within that respective version. Meaning that completing one version will mark all of its subsequent services as completed. Additionally, under the version status view, you can quickly see the status of all versions within your open orders. You can simply click and drag these to your different department, or I'm sorry, your different version status names to identify whether or not they need to be updated in any significant way. And then by jumping back and forth between this screen and the main order screen, we'll see that after making a change on the dynamic job board, our version information is changed under the General Info tab. That's pretty much all there is to versions. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at support@virtualsystems.com or give us a call at area code 425-828-9495 extension 4. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you have for us.